Hi. If you're watching this right now, then there's most likely a 99% of a chance that you're probably following me because you're aware of the fact that I am a voice actress. Or you follow me for like the fact that I made a sudden ranking video that got really popular, or you follow me for the video essays I make, or the weirdly topical posts I make, or the podcast I do, or the myriad of other things I do. But the point is, if you know who I am and if you've been following me for a while, then you're most likely aware of the fact that I'm a voice actress. And the thing about that is that for the last year and a half, I have not been able to actually voice act a lot. And that's mainly because of the fact that, one, I haven't exactly had the space in order to do it, and two, because I haven't really had a booth in quite some time. And a lot of those things recently got fixed up due to the fact that I recently moved house from a much smaller sardine can of a house, which cannot fit reasonably two neurodivergent people in one house, into a multi-storied house which I no longer know what to do with the space in it. And the answer to that question is obviously placing it in the same room that you put your work from home area in, so that you can just combine the two of them so that it's your all-in-one work office. One for the day job that you keep, and the other one also for the job that you do sometimes, that you sometimes get paid for, but you're also a lot more committed to, I suppose. And it also works because your work from area without that booth in there basically sounds like you're in a complete echo chamber constantly. And it's very bad when you're on calls having to talk with people all day and they're just constantly complaining about the fact that you sound like you're so far away from your microphone when it's literally being placed up right to your face and you're having to do it all day just to tell them, hey, I am talking to you right next to you. But anyway, back to the whole point of why we're here. Essentially, you have a large ass space where you're able to put everything in there, and you have a desk already in there, and you will have enough space in order to put everything in. So obviously, you put it in there. However, the issue that you find with the space is that the soundproofing is the absolute worst thing in the world because, as we established earlier, it's literally an echo chamber with bricks everywhere. And it bounces off the walls constantly. And you may as well just put it all in there because you already have the booth materials and you already have everything from your previous setup all ready to go, so you may as well use it for that. But you realize, because of the fact that you have a much larger space now compared to where you set it up previously, that you can upgrade your booth and actually make it more easier and less of an issue to work in. For context for that last bit, this is an image of my previous voice booth setup. It was literally just a square with moving blankets on every single side. There was no air control in there. It felt hot within like 3 seconds of stepping into there, and I could only do about 3 or 4 lines of dialogue before I had to step out, get some air for like a cool 2 to 3 minutes, even with air conditioning in the same room, and then immediately blitz right in order to try and see if I can do anything about it. That is not a viable setup. So in a situation where you're already planning on rebuilding your booth, you obviously take inspiration from a lot of people you find, and I took a lot of people's advice on board because of my previous setup, and I basically said to them, hey, this is what my previous setup was like. Is there anything I can do in order to actually like put it all together or improve upon what I'm doing here in order to make it a lot better in the long term? And the answers that they gave me were pretty good, and I'm really glad for the people that I took advice from. You all essentially kind of really made this a lot more easier for me to do, and it feels a lot better actually stepping into this booth now. I'm recording all of this after I've already set the booth, and I can confirm it sounds so much better, so much cleaner, and it's so good as well. But you're all wondering at this point in time, Chloe, what did you use for your booth? Get to that point already. We literally are waiting for you to talk about that, and I'm about to get to that point. So for the actual outline of the booth, I actually took what I used previously from it, and that was the moving blankets, which I was using previously for the outline of the booth in order to have like the walls of it done. So that is being kept. So we'll go for like 3 moving blankets, one on each side and one at the top, purely for that. And how they're being all held up is with metal photography booths. These you can easily find on eBay for like I'm gonna say $40 to $50 depending on the quality and also depending on how big you want your booth to be. I'm restricted by the space that I'm using it in, so obviously I can't get too tall with it, but also I don't want to get too wide as well. So future me, if you could put the measurements for what I was using for my metal frames right here. Thank you very much for that. That is the dimensions that I was using for the photography frames. That is going to be holding it all together. Finally, I am also going to be using acoustic foam for this because, believe it or not, I did not use acoustic foam the first time I set up my booth. And I solely relied on the moving blanket, which if you are any kind of professional, you 100% need to use acoustic foam for your setup in some way or fashion. You can't just rely on moving blankets for it, otherwise you're going to fall into the issue that I had previously, and that was everything gets way too hot because I know from experience, and I can tell you now, using moving blankets for all of your soundproofing really kind of heats up everything. So if you take away anything from this, 100%, if you're going to use moving blankets, 100% get like a fan or some kind of portable like wind system in the booth to make sure that you're not overheating, or have a lot of water ready because you're going to need it because you're going to be a sweaty mess during it. Anyway, this all set me back about this much, and once I got all of it together, it kind of slowly all came together in a sense that yeah, I knew what I was doing in some way or fashion. However, actually putting it all together ended up kind of being a bit of a challenge, because I had figured out the logistics of what I wanted to do with this, but at the same time, I was pretty much putting it all together on the fly, because I knew what I wanted and I knew what my head wanted, but the logistical side of things, of actually putting it all together, I was figuring that all out on the fly. So we're gonna cut to footage of past me getting this done on the first day. Yes, I said first day, we're doing this in multiple part sections. This was done over the course of like 2 days because of, well, I'll explain in a second, but this is day one me trying to get this all set up, and this is how things got done on the first day. So apologies in advance if the acoustics are pretty bad in here at the moment, but that is about to get fixed. And apologies also in advance if there's a little bit of incompleteness to everything, because I kind of got a little bit too excited and got a bit of a head start on everything a bit too quickly. So basically what I ended up doing was that I had already set up one of the frames up here already. So if you see that a bunch of this is already set up, I apologize. But yeah, one side of the frame is already done up. We are now just trying to get the other side all ready to go for the framework. And that's in box number 2 over there. Somewhere over here, we've got the moving blankets, we've got the acoustic foam all here in its little package. Gonna open that up in a little bit, but yeah. And as you can see, my little post there and a little closet over there. But yeah, let's get to work on this, shall we? Okay, so the framework is at least all up and ready to go. This is a little bit interesting, but it leaves a lot to be desired given the circumstances. However, I am not going to complain. The framework is at least up and ready to go. We now have something to work with here. Now, here comes the interesting logistics of putting these moving blankets up on here, because this whole framework came with these heavy-duty clamps. And what I'm hoping for here is that I can use these clamps to stabilize and put these moving blankets all up on here, but also wrap them around from pillar to pillar. This may not work. This may be absolutely the worst idea out of everything, but let's give it a go. Alright, it works. That's great. That is the best thing out of all of this. It is a bit jank, it's a bit interesting over here, and it's a bit wobbly, but it works. At least I know that it works. So, okay, so turns out I didn't have it up all the way, but it's looking a lot better now actually, so you can now tell how big it is compared to me. And just to prove a point, this is how big I am. So, this is how big just the moving blankets are. And we haven't even gone to the other section yet. So, let's get to that. Okay, so the sides are up. We have already made really good progress on this alone, and already I am just very happy for the fact that, hey, we got to this part of it. So now, here comes the interesting part. So the only issue with this one is that there's no top bit in order to make sure that it just rebounds, like, to the back, and this is the important one because I'm placing the mic right here, and there's all this wall at the back. So you can see my conundrum here right now. But we got like one more bit of moving blanket to work with. I think I have like one more rolling about somewhere. I think I might need to find that one. We got one more to work with. Let's see what I can do. But given the fact that there's less of a distance here, I'm hoping that maybe we might have something to work off here.
Now, to my credit, I thought initially that this was actually going to work to some degree because it did seem a little bit like a good idea at the start. However, as soon as I got to the second half of it, things slowly came, how would you say? Oh yeah, crashing down on me. That's how I describe it.
So, as you just saw, it was a little bit of a disaster on that first day, and figuring out that no, my idea was not going to work meant that I had to go back to the drawing board a little bit here on like the backboard and also the top bit. So yeah, back wall is gonna be a bit of a problem. However, this is where I kind of already adjusted for that, so this is where idea number 2 comes in. Because if these moving blankets can't work for the back wall, then we move to plan 2, which is using the acoustics. Because I slowly started to realize that even if I put all of the soundproofing at the back wall, there was still going to be some issues with the top part, because sound would still reverberate up and not just forward, and it would still go all around. So I had to make sure I had soundproofing for absolutely everything. So that left me thinking a little bit as to what I could potentially do. And then I realized that I had recently purchased a brand new gaming chair. This one, in fact, the one that I'm sitting on for this and is also my desk chair. So, I got to thinking, because I hadn't thrown out the box yet, I thought to myself, what if I stick the acoustic foam on the back of the cardboard and use that as the back for my booth? Trust me, I know that sounds crazy, but work with me here, please. So, you are probably all thinking to yourselves right now, Chloe, what are you doing here? And this is me just setting everything up for part 2 of this. By the way, day 2 of this, finally getting somewhere with this. I went to my local office works, picked up a couple pieces of useful equipment, which are going to be used. So basically, what I'm doing here is, you're probably seeing these 3M little strips right here, and I am placing these onto the back of the acoustic foam, of which I am then going to place to most of this cardboard. The main reason why I'm going down this route instead of just sticking it right on the back wall is because this is a rental, and I do not want to have to deal with the fury of a landlord telling me that I potentially messed up the walls purely for the fact that I wanted to have some soundproofing. And considering how many I was planning on using for it, my brain was just thinking at the time, are you sure you want to do this, Chloe? Are you sure you want to go down this far just to get some soundproofing? And then came the idea for the cardboard and as the back wall. And then I thought to myself, how on earth am I gonna put this all together? Like, there's no way it's gonna stick up like that. And then I had another thought. Zip ties. Now, a lot of people are probably freaking out at this point because it sounds like a logistical nightmare, but I haven't gone to the other bit I'm using for this. To tie it together with the pieces at the back, which are probably going to overlap with each other, double-sided tape, also by 3M. Actually, this is sellotape, which then fell on the ground. Thank you for that. And from my experience of having actually used zip ties in the past, because I grew up on a farm a lot and we had to be very, very creative about some methods of being able to keep things hoisted up, I knew for a fact that they would be able to keep that up with the amount of weight that the acoustic foam would. So as long as the command strips kept them on the cardboard, which I tested out with a run before I did the recordings the next day with putting it all together. Well, you see, if we come here into the booth real quick, I've already done one entire board of this. And while, yeah, it looks a little bit raggedy right now, it's staying up. And unlike the moving blankets on top of this back wall, yeah, sure, it's a little bit wonky right now, but we're gonna get to that at some point. If you look at everything here, it actually looks as though there's actually the makings of a wall here with soundproofing. And the acoustics sound a lot better in here just with this one panel. So imagine what an entire back wall of this stuff is going to do. I might even be able to put it up there a little bit, but we're getting a bit too ahead of ourselves here. I had proven, without a shadow of a doubt, that this was a thing that was going to work. So yeah, back wall, getting done with all of this stuff. It is probably the craziest logistical decision I've made of this entire thing, but let's give it a go.
What followed was me essentially just sticking command strips to the back of the acoustic foam and then sticking them all in 4 separate squares onto one separate piece of cardboard for essentially 30 to 40 minutes while I got that all ready to go. Pretty much making it so that we could stick holes into the sides of them, and then following on from that, go ahead and stick the zip ties into them in order to get them ready to stick up onto the sides. Then, for I'm pretty sure an hour and a half, I stuck all of the sides up on there on either side, making sure that they had enough in order to cover the entire back wall, and then proceeded to go through and just make sure that they all lined up together. Trust me when I say that this part was the most meticulous process of the entire thing, because my ADHD was just like killing me this entire time and telling me that this was such a pain. But eventually, after a while, the back wall was made, and as shoddy as it may look, I thought it looked right.
So, the acoustic panels on this side are all done. I think you can definitely tell a bit of a difference here, for the most part being like all of this up here. It's not the most perfect setup in the world, but I would definitely state it's a lot better than it was previously. And again, just looking at all of that foam, and if I just, yeah, it does feel a lot better in here. I mean, I'm speaking out here, but you can definitely tell there's a little bit of a difference when I'm talking, and it's right there. Again, not the most perfect setup, but hey, it's decent. It's pretty alright, I will say. Alrighty, had a better idea for the top of this, so if we go in here, you will see that there is my stand, there is everything, there is the wall, the literal wall of soundproofing for the acoustic foam in there. And if we come right under here, there's a little bit of noise, little bits of vibration and whatnot, but and you can barely see me in here. But if I talk out here, you can immediately tell the difference as soon as I turn my head around. So this is what I'm aiming for. So it's just like whenever this happens, and I'm in here, I'm gonna sort out some lighting potentially. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I've yet to do an actual test of the acoustics with my equipment, but I'm going to be saving that for a little bit because I'm a little bit sweaty right now, and also I got to bring everything down from my bedroom in order to get that done. So the acoustic test will be potentially at some point in this video. Otherwise, yeah, I am satisfied with this booth setup. Yeah, it's jank. It's a little bit dusty. It's a little bit interesting, but you know what? If it can minimize all of this sound once I'm in here, that is basically all I am asking for when I am in there and when the actual microphone is properly in place. So I can do voiceover work in here, and that's all I am asking for.
So I'm currently recording this visually on my phone right now just to make a point here, and also because I didn't want to have to pull my camera back in order to get this all recorded. But this is what the audio sounds like when I'm actually in the booth. You can definitely tell that compared to the audio quality of my AT2020 USB mic, which you have heard up until this point, there's a bit of a marginal difference. And that is the kind of audio quality that I am striving for with this setup. So yeah, while it may still not be the best type of professional setup, and while it does look a little bit rinky-dink with the way I've set it all up, as you can see, you can clearly see that my computer, which I'm doing the recording on right now, which you should be hearing in real time, is just on a little shelf which has my PreSonus audio box in there as well. So I will admit, an interesting setup, but I'm proud of it nonetheless. And I'll be honest, it's nice. It's nice having this booth again. Like, if you take away anything from what I'm doing right now, let this be clear. I am really happy with the way that this microphone setup has been done up until this point, and I'm glad that I have this audio quality again, because I have missed having this setup again, and also, feels good having this again, and even if it's still not the best, I love it.
It's the kind of recording that I've wanted for quite some time, because it's the kind of recordings that make me feel actually really good about the fact that yes, I am a voice actress and it actually sounds like professional quality work now, instead of me just using like a very rickety booth. And I feel accomplished now for the fact that hey, I have this and I can use it whenever I want. So now obviously I need to remember to have to actually use it instead of just saying to myself, oh yeah right, I'm a voice actress, I need to get stuff done. I guess I need to use this, I suppose. Which, for the record, is not a bad thing, because that mic is still pretty decent. It's the one I use for the podcast and all of the recordings that I'm doing for this one. But for professional work, it's the booth that I really want to keep on using from now on. And I'm really glad that I have that again, because it now means that I can actually get back into recordings, and I have not been able to do that in close to a year and a half. And now I actually feel confident with getting back into it. So while yes, building that booth was a struggle, while finding out the logistics along the way was a bit of a hassle, if you've learned anything from this, it's that if you have no idea how to make a booth, just wing it. So long as you know how to actually like soundproof your stuff, it should be no problem at all, and you should be able to get this done on the cheap, but it might be a little bit time consuming depending on how you get it set up with. And as well as that, do keep in mind that this is not an instantaneous process. Like, you can't just set up like it's not gonna be a one-to-one thing every single time you try and set up something like this. Like, the type of setup that I had, it works, but it's not gonna work for everyone. So of course, take what I'm dishing out right now with a grain of salt and take on board the basics, but of course, ask the people around you for help. Like, if you know people that are in the industry and work with this sort of stuff, ask them. Like, if you take away anything from this, this is not meant to be a how-to video on how to set up your booth. This is just one mad woman trying to set up a booth using what she has and what she's been told on what to do, and somehow it works. So, yeah, that's my main takeaway from this. I somehow managed to create a makeshift booth through the craziest of methods. So, if I can do it, you can do it. So, that's my main takeaway. And of course, this is what I use for, like, my recording setup. If you're curious about that, I guess use that as a baseline. Yeah, I wasn't expecting this to be a professional video, so yeah. That's my booth setup video. If you like this and you want to see more of my wacky shenanigans, I guess, subscribe button's gonna be over there. Last video that I made, it's a Teen Titans ranking video, is gonna be over there. Somewhere here is also going to be like my main series in transition, which I'm gonna be working more videos on, especially now that I have that booth all set up. Yeah, I don't know what to say. If you like this video, if you like the wacky vibes that I'm bringing off, thank you, and catch you later.